Let's talk all things carbs. Lovely, wonderful carbs. So when people think carbs, they pretty much just think bread, right? Maybe that's you, maybe that's not you, but I want to give a different perspective because there's so much more to carbs. Carbs are vegetables. Carbs are fruits. Carbs are honestly a necessity to give us the fuel and the energy that we need, and it also helps us build muscle mass. It helps us get through a workout. And so often there's these negative connotations, especially those that were kind of 80s babies and raised through the 90s of this like anti-carb, carb-free, then which shifted into the Atkins diet, which became this thing, and then that was poo-pooed, but then we just magnified it with this thing called keto, which is really the same thing, just amped up more. And so carbs have kind of gotten a bad rap. And we typically think that to remove carbs equals lose weight faster. And that's true to a point, but not to the longevity and to the point that we really want to, which is sustained fat loss, not quick, rapid weight loss. And that's where some of the misconception comes from. So when we look at it, yes, carbs are bread, rice, pasta, grains, oats, delicious stuff, potatoes, amazing, but it's also vegetables and fruits. And so there's a lot of things that we can get from all of these different things that serve us quite well. And in a surplus, it doesn't serve us well, just like with anything. Too much of a good thing, right, is not going to be the greatest thing. And so we want to create some education and some context around that and then figure out how to use those for you, right? So the reason that oftentimes people will cut carbs and be like, the only way I lose weight is to cut carbs is because for every 1 gram of carbohydrate that goes into your system, we store an average of 5 grams of water weight. Our body is typically between, roughly the average is 66% body, your weight is water. But anywhere between 60 and 75%, give or take, depending on fat mass, depending on skeletal structure. So we can honestly say that a good portion of our body is water. And because a carbohydrate is going to then store water, naturally, if you eat a bunch of carbs, right, especially if you eat a bunch of carbs that probably have some sodium, you're not eating something completely plain. You're not picking up a potato and just eating a potato. Your body is going to store a lot more water weight. And so when we deplete ourselves of carbohydrates, we burn through the glycogen, the stored aspect of carbohydrate that is stored within our muscle, and then naturally the scale goes down. But it's why if you see anybody that cuts out a bunch of carbs from their diet, and then they kind of look flat. And so what I mean by that is someone who's really muscular, if they cut out too many carbohydrates, their muscles just become kind of flat. And it's because the glycogen stores are no longer in there, so the water retention is no longer happening there. And so we want to find that balance because we want to have enough carbohydrates for sure in our system to do one of the most important things, which is to continue to build muscle mass, or at least during a weight loss phase of our life, to not lose muscle mass because it is so challenging to actually build. So someone who has already been working out for quite some time, on average, can only build between 0.5 pound to 5 pounds max of muscle in a given year. And really, for most people, it's between 0.5 pound to 2 pounds, right? Especially for those of us that are in our 40s, 50s, and older, or those of us that are not able to be weightlifting 5 days a week. So it's really important. If you think about it, it's not that you're building a ton of muscle, it's just that you're storing more glycogen in your muscles, and so therefore they fill up, which is a good thing. So we want to be able to figure out that right amount for you. Now, when it comes to that, oftentimes people are like, well, don't eat bananas, those are higher in sugar, right? Because that's all a carbohydrate technically is. But really, it's fruit. Do we really need to freak out about fruit? We just need to have a right perspective on what those things are and give ourselves a little bit of a break. So with fruits, the way we're going to look at it is that we want to try and have a serving to 2 per day, and it's fist size. Serving to 2 per day. If you can, you want to go for your darker fruits. Your blackberries, blueberries, boysenberries, raspberries, strawberries, honestly anything that ends with berry works quite well. And the reason just being is there's more antioxidants that are found within those. There's more vitamin A that tends to come from those. They're lower on the glycemic index and they're therefore lower in calories. So we're getting a bunch of the positives and we're just not having as many calories throughout the entire process. But if you want to have a banana, just because it's higher in calories, higher in sugar, have a banana. If you would prefer an orange, hey, we're getting great, vitamin C. Like, there's benefits to all of these fruits. And so it's what you like and enjoy. And the other main benefit is that we're getting enough fiber. Oftentimes, we're trying to really work hard to get enough protein, and we don't get enough fiber because of that. Because it's really easy for us to not eat enough fruits, and that brings me to my second point of vegetables, which are also carbs. And so I want to challenge you to try and have 1 to 2 servings of fruit a day, right? If it's more right now, that's okay too. And then I want to challenge you to, again, have fist size of a vegetable or more, ideally more, with every single meal that you don't have fruit with. And so that's going to be our main focus for this entire week's challenge right now, is to have as many servings of vegetables as you possibly can. Now, ideal for most people is a minimum of 5 per day, and usually cap it out at a max of 10 per day. You could obviously exceed that. It's just if our fiber intake becomes too high, then we could run into the opposite issues of not having enough fiber in our diet. And so really, that's why I'll add spinach, which comes down to be this amount, but usually starts out, as you know, when you're cooking down spinach, of quite a big amount in my eggs in the morning. Or if I'm going to have Greek yogurt, then I'll have a serving of blueberries or blackberries, some fruit that is going into that. And then if I'm making a shake, I will put in frozen spinach or frozen kale so that I can mask that flavor within that. And it still gives me a ton of servings of vegetables within that. I'll have a salad almost every single day, or I'll do a stir fry so that I can just really load up on the variety of vegetables. And then with dinner, I'm always going to have a couple of servings, whether it's, some broccoli, some steamed broccoli, or some green beans, carrots, whichever vegetable, honestly, you like. But we just really want to work towards having anywhere from 4 to 10 servings a day. So take this from where you're at. If you look at your entire day and you're like, I'm getting a piece of lettuce on my sandwich, and wow, I'm maybe having 1 serving a day, if that, let's go for 2 servings a day, right? And this is also why I do a salad at lunch, because honestly, I'll get like 5-6 servings of vegetables easily, right then and there in one meal, right? Now that brings us to the rest of the carbs. Well, how do we manage that? What does that look like? Are more what I call starchy carbs: bread, rice, pasta, grains, oats, and potatoes for the most part, right? So your starchy carbs, they're still really good. We just want to usually limit our portion sizes so that we're not in a calorie surplus. And let's be honest, you may be like, I just love bread. I can't get rid of bread, and I don't want to get rid of bread. Then don't get rid of bread. Why would you do that? And it's really not the bread that we love. It's usually the bread plus butter. It's usually not that we just love crackers. It's that we love crackers and cheese. It's really not that you just love the crust of pizza. You love the pizza plus the cheese plus the sauce. It is usually a carbohydrate tastes great, but a potato solo is not nearly as good as potato with butter and sour cream and cheese and bacon and chives, right? So it's the fact that we're adding fat. It's usually fat with salt that makes something of a carbohydrate taste really, really good. And so more often than not, when people say, well, like, I just cut carbs and I lose weight. Well, you're not just cutting carbs. You're actually cutting carbs, plus you're cutting a lot of fat. So that's usually why. And then your calories drastically drop and you're in a calorie deficit. It has nothing to do with the carbs. It has everything to do with the calorie deficit. It has just been created by you mentally focusing on the carbohydrates. And that's okay. That is wonderful. There's nothing wrong with any of that. I just want to give you the knowledge to say, like, it is not that carbs are bad. That needs to be eradicated. Because if you look at any bodybuilder, they're actually typically going slightly lower on fats, slightly more on carbohydrates throughout their weight loss process. And so what we want to do is look at carbs from a portion standpoint. Take a hand, level it off. That's a serving size. So for most people, we want to try and have that serving size with every single one of our main meals. So in other words, that would be 3 to 4 handfuls leveled off, basically like for most people, a half a cup to a cup per meal. And that's enough to fulfill our glycogen stores and to get us into an ability to have energy for our workouts, and we're not tanked by any means, but we're also going to still maintain a calorie deficit. So that could be that, with breakfast, you have like half a piece of toast. Like that's what that would be, right? With your like eggs in the morning, or you're gonna have your fruit in place of that. So you're gonna have your blueberries with your Greek yogurt. Or for lunch, you're gonna add in something to your salad, or you're going to add in something else alongside, or rice or potatoes, right? And for men, it is 2. So it is more because they have more muscle storage, more muscles within their body. So sorry, ladies, that's just the way that it goes with that. And so that's what we want to look at. Can I have 1 serving per main meal, 2 servings after my workout, so that I can actually build the muscle mass that I really want to, and not just tear down my muscles and make myself sore and fatigued and not replenish. And so let's back this thing up. So we want to try and have 1 to 2 servings of fruit. If you're having fruit in that meal, then I would just avoid my starchy carb unless it's post-workout, right? So I'm going to have my fruit, or I'm going to have my starchy carb. With the rest of my meals, I want to try and have 1 to 2 servings of vegetables every single meal. So I'm definitely trying to get something dark and green and leafy, or orange and carroty or mushroomy, or whatever the vegetable is that you like. And then I'm going to have a serving of carbohydrates with that. Now, if you're like, I don't really miss the carbs, cool, just bump up on your veggies and fruits so that we're still getting enough there. Or you may find that you prefer to go less throughout the week, like I do, knowing that I'm going to have a couple of nights a week when I allow myself the freedom and permission to eat guilt-free and eat a lot of pizza on Friday night, or wherever the second meal is that I tend to allow myself to just not give a crap and just thoroughly enjoy. And I know that that's going to balance out with the entire week. It's not one bad meal, because there's no such thing as a bad meal, but there's not one meal that's going to put you in a surplus that is going to get us to a place where we're over and never going to get results. And there is not one good meal that is going to get us to a place. There's no good meal. It's just your meals that you're eating. So we just want to be able to balance that. And so I want you to just look on a daily basis. Where can I have a serving of fruit that would serve me best and not overindulge? Where can I really work towards having my vegetables so that it emulsifies me, so I get the vitamins, nutrients, and minerals that my body really needs? And where can I portion out these carbohydrates throughout the day so that I'm not in a surplus? I don't want to have a burger and fries, which is honestly like about 6 servings of, maybe even more, of carbohydrates right there, but it's so loaded with fat that's why it's a 1,200 calorie meal. So where could I go with now on these types of things? Swaps. Could I get it lettuce wrapped, right, on a burger? Or could I go open face on a sandwich? So I'm getting that 1 serving that's going to be perfect for me. Could I actually swap out some noodles for some zucchini noodles and then have some chickpeas? My protein goes up, but that's also a great source of carbohydrate. And so that I'm just decreasing the overall calories, decreasing the amount of carbohydrates to get my body what it actually needs so that my calories stay in a line. All right? So I want you tracking every single day based on serving size with all of these. Reach out if you have any questions. Rock and roll.